once again like to welcome Tom Butler. Tom gave me his short bio. He has a lovely wife, Sarah, and 6 wonderful children. He says, yes, 6, a real Brady Bunch. Tom is beginning his 31st year in education, he started as a junior high school English and history teacher in Long Beach Unified School District, and now is in his current position of superintendent in Atascadero Unified School District. He says that becoming part of the Atascadero Unified School District team is the best professional decision that I have ever made. It truly is an organization with a family feel, and I hope that I have been able to contribute to that in a positive manner. We are fortunate to serve a truly amazing and unique community that places great value in education, and it's a pleasure to serve as superintendent of schools in AUSD and look forward to many positive and productive years ahead. Go AUSD! And take it away, Tom.
Thanks to the Chamber for putting these together. I think these are really informative and hopefully a really benefit to our community. Yeah, my wife is a lot smarter than I, and you can tell that, right? And she picked up on it when I became part of the district. Now this is my 6th year as superintendent, but right when we got here, she said, this is it. I said, what do you mean? And she said, this feels like family. And she was picking up on things. I was too caught up in just trying to do my career and get started and do all the things I wanted to do educationally. But she saw this whole other aspect of this great area that we live in, and absolutely was correct. And it's been just a total pleasure. And hopefully we can keep doing some amazing things for kids in this area. And I know all of you guys support that. Emily had asked me to provide you guys with kind of an update. And I think we have to go back to March related to that, and in March, approximately March 13, we ended up closing our school campuses, and you guys are well aware of that, with all the impacts that came out of that, the impacts on families, the impacts on learning, economic impacts with the Chamber and the great work that you do to support all of the businesses in our community. It's really appreciated, included in the school district. But when that happened, we weren't ready. I don't think any educator would tell you they were ready for that moment. And so we really sprung into almost like a crisis response. And I was really proud of the way we did respond then. I think our teachers stepped up into new areas for them. They grew tremendously. And that was super, super helpful to have that growth. But it wasn't the robust education we really strive for. And so we've got to be able to acknowledge that, yeah, there was tremendously good work that took place in March, but it wasn't what any parent would really expect as the educational product, in my opinion, for their child. And we want to acknowledge both of those, right? There was hard work, yet we were still in kind of a crisis mode. Since then, I think we've come a long way to be prepared to do significantly better in this current distance learning, which we're in now. But to go back to that March time, wow, not only did we have the coronavirus and the closure of schools, and then we were rapidly followed up with a really late hit to our budgets. And then we saw the economic kind of crash a little bit related to the coronavirus, which I know all of our business owners know too well, right? We've seen those impacts. But for us, coming into the end of the school year, we were looking at a 10% reduction in revenues, and that was going to be devastating. Our business here in the school district, it's about $50 million annual is our revenue, and that was going to be a $5 million cut, and that was going to go deep. And we were going to have to be looking at reducing a variety of positions, and that's something that I never want to do as a superintendent. I value the employees so much, and they're part of the fabric of this community we talked about. They are the family. They're out there, they're spending the money they earn in the district in our community. They're a big part of what gives our whole Atascadero area such a great feel. And so that was a real tough place for us to be as we went into summer, really looking at how would we reduce spending by $5 million. Fortunately, some things took place, some adjustments were made, and right now we're looking at about a 2.5% reduction in our revenues. But that's something we can manage. That's not good news, but it's better news than a 10% cut. So I'm proud to say we've been able to really maintain our employee groups. We've maintained the full pay, the full salary, the full benefits of all of our employees, which I hope is being seen as a trickle down right out into all the local businesses that are a part of our active chamber. And hopefully that's benefiting everybody. And we're always pleased to see our money go back into this economy. That's the key here. So that was just added on to it. You know, we had coronavirus, then we had a financial crash. And so we're here today as we move forward. And one of the challenges for us still related to the budget is some of that money is kind of just numbers in the checkbook. Right? If you've heard of the concept of deferrals, they're going to give us the numbers and they're real, but they're not giving us the cash. The cash is going to come later, some of it not for a year. So that means though our budget is better, we're strapped to make our monthly bills, right? Every month we've got a huge payroll that goes out, as you guys can imagine, with a $50 million annual budget. So every month we want that going out. We want paychecks to cash. We want our employees to get all the benefits they should. So we're really in a tough place with cash flow as a result of that. So the numbers are real. We just don't have the cash. And so that's a little bit of a tricky spot for us in education. We've done a variety of things to help weather that storm. I believe we will. But because of that, some of the funding that we have to kind of hang on to just to make our payments rather than necessarily do programs for kids, which is what we're all about. So we're kind of in a balance there, being where we still have to have that financial solvency, but you want to balance the needs of kids and our staff too. So as we come into summer, you know, some new requirements for schools. One of those was we had to develop a health and safety plan. And for us, we also included our academic plan. So we have a comprehensive health, safety, and as I mentioned, academic plan for Atascadero Unified School District. It deals with a variety of scenarios that could come up around the coronavirus. In conjunction with that plan, we had to and were required to consult with our employee associations. You know, the majority of our employees are in organized labor unions. And so we had to work collaboratively with our unions. We have 2 unions that we work with in Atascadero Unified, and had a very strong partnership around the health and well-being of our employees, because of course that's going to translate right to the health and well-being of our students too. And we know both of those go hand in hand. With that plan, we also had to work with our county health department. And for us, fortunately, we were able to have good consultation from Dr. Penny Borenstein, her staff. And then there's also Dr. Nazmi. He's an epidemiologist at Cal Poly, and he gave us input on our plan, which we've included, as well as a large parent stakeholder group that we work with. So we have a plan. I think it's a really nice plan. I think it's also a little more digestible. I know some schools have taken these into, 200-300 page documents. Ours is right here, and you guys can find this easily on our website at any time. And you can imagine it talks about how are we keeping schools clean? What will we do with hygiene? What are our expectations if we have a student or a staff member exhibiting symptoms? So we have all of those scenarios there. Then if we're exhibiting symptoms, how do we contact public health? What do we do to go back and then disinfect that area where that individual may have been? This will all come really in handy when we do move into having more in-person services on our campuses. You guys are well aware right now that we're in the full distance learning, and we're on the county watch list. You guys know that also, because that also impacts different things that businesses can do. But with us being on the county watch list, instruction as required by the state of California has to be in distance learning. There's been some discussion about waivers, and there's I think some misunderstanding out there. The waiver process only applies to elementary. And for us, that would really be transitional kindergarten up through 5th grade. And then in that waiver process, there's a variety of steps that must be taken to try to reopen that band of students. The waiver does not apply to any student older than that elementary age level. And so for us, that would be, it does not apply to 6th grade through 12th grade. So there's no waiver opportunity for that group. At the same time, we need to be really thoughtful about working with employee groups. It's required that you consult with them on the waiver. You have to have parent involvement. I've got some parent surveys, which I'll be happy to share with the group here in a minute, as well as our staff surveys about kind of their perspective related to it. And so, while we're in that, trying to pick up on a chat down here. Yeah, I think I picked up on that. I'll hit on the special ed here in a moment. Thanks. And so there's a variety of steps that go with that waiver application. Ultimately, that waiver application then would have to be sent to our county health department. They would have to review it, and then they are required to consult with the state California Department of Public Health. So quite a few steps there. Not something we're starting yet. You know, that waiver is for that whole elementary band of students from transitional kindergarten up through that 5th grade for us. And I saw the question about special education students. There's some new guidance coming out right now, which is very positive, I believe. You know, we know that we have students in a variety of different aspects of our school district that have some very high needs that we do want to bring specific services to support them with. So there are some new allowances which are being sorted through at the California Department of Education, where we can start to look at providing the in-person services. And I'll use these words carefully because they have different meanings now. Instruction is still prohibited while you're on that watch list. Okay, instruction, right? That's our real business. But services now can be allowable, yet there's still a variety of steps that have to be taken. And so services could include speech services, occupational therapy services. If we have students with severe behavioral, social, emotional issues, those are services. But in addition, it could also work for our students with special needs, students that have IEPs who may need a service to access a distance learning platform like you're experiencing today. And so their teacher might still be in a distance format, but we may be able to very soon have a staff member supporting them to access it. So we want to move as rapidly as we can to be able to get those services in place for our high needs students. We think that's a great first step. And also we've got a lot to do to put different safety parameters in place. We have a variety of facilities that we've worked on where we've got, you know, plexiglass barriers. We have all the appropriate PPE, which are the personal protective equipment, right? Those would also be for students, right? That way, if they didn't have a face covering, we'd have one for them. All the protective equipment that we'd want for our staff members to have, all the different cleaning procedures and practices in place so that we can make sure we can do this in the safest manner possible. I believe this afternoon we're negotiating with our Teachers Association, and then we'll be negotiating with our Classified Employees Association around the different parameters, because they have a right to negotiate a safe working environment. I think we all agree on that, right? We want employees across all types of work to feel safe in whatever role or responsibility they have. And so we want to take that seriously. And like I mentioned earlier, that's going to also apply to giving our students the safest environment. And so we're looking forward to moving forward pretty rapidly, if we can, to start to address some of our individualized students who have some needs. And that may allow us to have kind of that phased return, if you will. We get some individual students, potentially we can grow to small groups of students. The timing might work out. Maybe our county situation improves, we start to come off that county watch list, and we're able to look at our blended model. So in our plan, not only do we all have all that, those health and safety features, but we also have our academic plans that we can move into given the conditions in our county. And so right now we're in the distance learning, as you guys know, and students are receiving approximately 2 hours where their teacher's there to give them the live instruction to support them. And then usually that's followed up with still a couple hours of, if you will, assignments to be extended on at home, where they're able to do different work with their parents at home to follow up on the learning provided by the teacher. We've got that broken up right now into 2 sessions. And initially I'm hearing good things about that. What that means is that if we have a class of 30 in the morning, there's 15 students with their teacher. And then in the afternoon, a different set of 15 teachers with their students. And we feel that that's giving better access right here to this exact format that we're in. Students are able to ask questions. Teachers are able to be more responsive and pick up on the needs of their students. You know, it's quite difficult when you get into the large electronic platform. And I think probably once you get past like 15, it's tough to really monitor everyone's needs and in a call, if you will, or in a virtual setting. So far we're hearing good things about the attention that we're getting to students that way. Acknowledging that there's still some parents that might want a different time frame. And I would encourage those parents to still reach out and talk to their principals if they need something adjusted, maybe to meet a personal family type of need about what time of day works best for them. That same plan we have for distance learning, our concept was that we would put that structure in place and then apply it to the blended model. And I'll simplify it. The blended model is half the students returning for half the day. Okay, and that's kind of where that is. But it would be the same schedule. And so if you're a family that's currently having instruction in the morning, your blended model would be in the morning. We wanted to provide structures and consistency for students and families. You know, if you're currently in the afternoon, of course, you'd come to blended in the afternoon. And so that's why we spent a lot of time trying to develop something that we thought was logical, that would be meaningful and connect, and people could take a system and learn it in distance learning, and then we could apply it when we came to the blended model. So hopefully, if the timing's right, we do this in almost a phased approach, right? We get the individual students back, start to support them, see what it's like to work with them with all the safety precautions in place, then move to smaller groups, and then start to look at what we can do with the blended model. Some good news for everybody, really excited. All of our extracurricular stipends, we're moving forward rapidly on that. I think at this time, it's not less for kids, it's more for kids. So there's some great stuff happening, for example, and I'll use choir. So we will be having our middle school and high school choirs start to perform and get together, and it'll start virtually. But we've got some neat things happening. There's a choir consortium where they're going to develop a virtual choir show. Our students will be able to participate in that. And so there's some really nice, innovative thinking going on out there. And it's all really well intended about getting kids back involved in their passions, whether that's mock trial, drama, band, choir, any of those arts. What we can do with our ag program, what can be done virtually with that to extend the learning into those extra opportunities that students want. And then related to that, there's some relaxation right now around youth sports. And for us athletically at the high school and middle school level, and we'll probably start at high school, but right now we've got lots of dialogue happening across all the high schools in our county. And if you will, I'll use the term loosely league. We're not in exactly all the same league, but I think you guys will follow that. So our league area is talking about what does that look like? How could we come back in a safe manner, follow the protocols related to really what I'll call outside small group conditioning. That's really what it would be. We wouldn't be able to do too many sports specific things. So for instance, in basketball, you couldn't scrimmage. That wouldn't be appropriate. There'd be contact. You'd be in too close a proximity to others. But we can help students stay in shape for when they come back. And there's a lot of obviously health attributes we all know to that physical activity. So that's something that we've got some optimism about, that we think we may be aiming towards a soft bring back in that area, which all those pieces add back to that normalcy that we're trying to capture. Let me see if I can give you some survey data real quick. Let's start off with our parents. So of our parents, we had 966 responses, which I think is pretty darn good, given the fact that I think you have to remember roundly, 5,000 students, of course, a little bit less than that, but I'll use round numbers. And then if we know that, many of our parents have multiple children, in somewhere we'd have some average, right, of what's our average family size here. Now, this represents a very nice portion of our school district. So with 966 responses, 38.9% of our parents want full distance learning, and that's the online that we're in now, and there's no in-person with that. So 38.9% of parents reported a choice of full distance learning. 34.5% of parents reported that they would like the blended model, and simple definition, half the students, half the day. And then 26.6% of our parents wanted traditional school, which would be full day, full class size, full in person. We're really going to look at this as kind of our baseline with parents. We're planning to re-survey our community in about 3 weeks, give or take. That survey will go a little deeper. We also want to see how distance learning is going. So for our parent clientele, there'll be an opportunity for you to respond on what the learning experience is at home, if there are challenges that we can support families with, as well as how's the technology working. You know, we know that's going to be it today, right? We just talked about the challenge of working remotely, especially in education. So those are the initial stuff. You can find these. We're posting this on our website. These were just in our recent board packet as well. If you'd like to find those numbers, I'd be happy to push those out again. We also surveyed our employee groups, and we had 380 responses, which I think is pretty darn healthy for us, given the fact that we, depending on part-time, full-time, you start to push between 500 and 600 employees in the district. And I'm happy to share with you what our employees thought. And so when asked basically the same question, the question for parents was, what format would you want your education delivered in? The question for employees was, what working conditions would you like to return to for our educational efforts? And so employees were 57.1% full distance learning. Once again, that's the online instruction, and that's no in-person. And that was 57.1. 25.8% of our employees wanted the blended model, right? Half the day, half the kids. And 17.1% chose the traditional school, which is the full day and the full class size and the full in person. So we certainly know we have all of our employees want to do what's right for kids. I know that deeply in Atascadero, but we also know that there are some that are ready to come back and start to support. And that doesn't mean they're ready to come back without the safety precautions. I certainly think with them, when they've answered these, they're thinking about coming back with tighter protocols around student and staff behavior, which we have in place. But I think that as a baseline, this is a good place for us to start. We're going to resurvey the entire community, both our staff and our, obviously our parent group here in approximately 3 weeks. I think that'll be great to see where that's trending. It'll also be, I think, neat, as you guys can imagine, to see how does this change? You know, they have been working at home with their sons and daughters for a number of weeks. In addition, will there be changes possibly in the conditions in our county and in our community? Could there be advances in medicine? Well, hopefully, right? We all want that. But it'll be neat to see how this adjusts. And then also our board last night talked about that when we start to come off that county watch list, we'll probably get a quick survey out right then. We know that we have to come off the county watch list and then stay off of that watch list for 14 days. But that gives us the timing to re-engage with parents, to make sure staff's ready to come back, to make sure we've got everything set. And I'm happy to share on that front that I can confirm to you that we have all of the personal protective equipment that we need. We've done a great job acquiring that, and we've got a very strong inventory of personal protective equipment. We've got all the cleaning supplies that we've needed, and we have added custodians. So we have hired 2 more custodians. I'm very pleased to share that. In addition, we have significant quantities of, obviously, soap for hand washing, all the restroom supplies, and hand sanitizer. And so I feel that in that area, we're fully prepared. We've done some work on our facilities. Right now, we're in the process of still acquiring a very highly upgraded filter that will go into all of our HVAC system. It's compatible with like hospital use. And so it's a much tighter weave as far as pushing the air through, and catches a significant amount of anything that could be in the air as an aerosol. So we're pleased to have all of those coming in right now. Those aren't all done yet, but they are ordered, they are funded. We have all the funds secured for that. Other cool update. We've been able to squirrel away enough funds to have a significant supply now of Chromebooks on hand. We want to make sure that we're able to replace Chromebooks, keep our families and students with the best technology. And we're also upgrading all of our teacher stations and our teacher devices so that they've got, we'll have here hopefully in the next month or two when it all arrives, you know, a brand new laptop with a larger screen, the increased speed and accuracy in the way it's going to be able to run the programs, I think will be great. Where are we at right now? Let's see. Well, I think we kind of covered a lot. I mean, instruction, student experience, it's going to change. You know, we've really got our teachers digging in right now. Teachers are going to provide improved instruction over what we would have experienced back in March. I'm really proud of their efforts. You know, we're going to have attendance. We're going to have also an engagement requirement. Engagement would be that, yes, you attended class. Engagement would be, okay, you completed your assignment or you were a very active participant that day, and the teachers have to make a judgment on that. But both of those have to be recorded now in the state of California. And then in addition, grading will be different. You know, remember in the spring, we had the no harm could be caused. And so students either were going to receive the grade that they had prior to going into distance learning in March, or they could work to improve their grade, but they couldn't go backwards at that time. That no longer exists, and now students will earn grades and marks at the elementary school based on their academic performance. And I think I can open it up here, but last comment is, man, what a community, huh? Parents have been so patient, so understanding, and have really taken on that role of the educator home, and I'm grateful for that. And though we've had our bumps in the road, I think we had over 900 service calls the first couple days on technology. Interesting to see that I think we went 900 calls during those first 3 days last week. I think we had 150 calls on Monday, and on Tuesday we were down to 50 service calls on technology. So it appears to be, even though we've got internet issues and other factors, it appears that we're starting to get that operational at a lot higher rate, and I'm proud to share that. So yeah, what kind of questions do you guys have? Emily, where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, no, this is perfect. A perfect segue to.
I mean, isn't that the family we're here at? I think there's some really neat things that can be done. And one thing that we are looking at, and we actually talked to the county about it, is trying to use some different organizations in our community that that can tie into kids. And that's broad. That can be very diverse. And I'm sure that a number of the businesses featured here today could absolutely participate in that. And so, for instance, what we're doing with some of our partners, you know, we're reaching out to Audubon, One Cool Earth, which does different things with gardening. And we've had ongoing partnerships with them, but what they're going to do is help create a series of kind of fun, high engagement videos. Those videos would then lean into, in this example with One Cool Earth, students being able to go out into their family gardens or into their backyards, look at plants, maybe do a soil sample. So if anyone would like to be able to step up and provide some of those kind of enrichment type experiences, I think that would be great. I think a lot could be done around careers. We've had a great partnership with the chamber, and specifically on that, Emily, the data is overwhelming you guys on career awareness. And even for young children, the data shows that even a young child that's just aware of jobs and careers does better on any academic assessment. You take that farther, right? They get introduced to it at that level. They start to explore through those middle grades. By the time they get to the high school, they're really starting to get a direction. And that's that self-directed student we're looking for. So anything along those lines around kind of providing some enrichment type of stuff, whether it could be guest speakers coming into a format like this with students, we'd love that, Emily. Anything along those lines would be great. We'll get Phil Dunsmore in there right now. We'll break out some maps of the city. Could be amazing, Phil.
And so on that, I would like to offer that, Tom, that anything you want us as the chamber to send out to our members, you know, email me. We're happy to send anything that's of help. Another question that came in is, how can we ensure that our kids are engaged when they're doing distance learning?
Yeah, I hear the challenge, and from a parent standpoint, right? 6 kids, don't, you know, let's stay appropriate here. I mean, I heard that at the beginning. Thanks, Emily, for that warning. Yeah, 6 kids. I don't know how I would have done it. I'm glad my kids are older. Sorry to say it that way. Yes, engagement. So teachers are going to do a good job of that for you during that time when they have them. They're going to take that on. We want them to really look into that engagement level. I think the challenge obviously at home is to set up some structures, and that's one of those pieces that we're fortunate to have great parents, but I would say start with a structure. Simple, make sure it works for you as the parent, right? Got to work for you. If it works for the parent, it will work for your child. I guarantee you. They're very pliable in these ways. And so I think if you get some structures that work for your family structure, for your family, then I think your son or daughter is going to fit into that. And that's when you kind of repurpose them back into, okay, you were online with your teacher. You've had a successful experience there. It's absolutely appropriate to have breaks, to have different times for them to come down from that, right? We know learning has to look like this, you guys. We can't just go up and keep people at a sustained point. It won't work. They'll all tune out. So we bring them up into the learning, let them come down for the breaks, let them play with Legos, let them go outside and run around, do all the different things you may do as a family, have a snack, all those nice things. And just know to try to ride that concept, if you will. And then if you can put the structures into place to where, okay, we've done our break time. Now we're going to come back into that learning that we have from this morning. And you're going to follow up on your math lesson by starting to do some of the math problems. I think that will help. Also, I think we're fortunate to have great families, and our parents have a lot of their own interests and incredible knowledge. Take time and share those different things. Share your family passions. If you're a family that hikes, get out and hike. And whatever those things are, push those things that you do. I think your kids will just love that. Hopefully that'll help on the engagement.
So on that, is there additional outreach to those families or those students that don't have the parental support that can do all those great things that you just described, or say the non-English speaking students or families?
That's probably that's the emotional tough spot here. And let's be frank, right? We can't reach that far. I wish we could. All of us want to just go into homes that need support and do that. So with those families, we do have a really nice some parent resources. They're right on the front of our website. One is around curriculum and different things that you can do to support your children with really the academic learning. And then there's also a whole side around technology and for questions that parents may have with tech. So we have 2 parent support pieces there that are really good. And they also have different resources that if you're looking for, something, let's say a video from National Geographic, there's probably a link there that would get you into some of the kind of the Nat Geo stuff. That might be an example that would ring true with parents about finding stuff that would be that high interest for students. I think also, though, Emily, it's important to know that we still have a lot of our other resources out there. We have our Atascadero Community Collaborative. We have the link. Great stuff. There's different organizations here locally that can step in and support. We have ECHO and we have homeless students. There are other resources out there. We can bring resources to that, but we also want to respect it. We have a lot of agencies really trying to wade in and support those families that are in need. We still have, we are offering some childcare, and that's good to know. There's a real high standard on the health and safety there. We have Boys and Girls Club is at the Fine Arts, and then we have Champions, and those are located at different elementary sites. Both of those organizations have said that they will support children with distance learning, and we have supported each of those groups with additional Chromebooks so that if a student's there during the day, they can go right into their class while their parents are at work. They can do the distance learning, and I'm really thankful that both of those groups have committed to supported distance learning, so that's a big help too.
And that's what makes Atascadero so great, right? Like what you just said, all these other resources that are out there in the community coming together. This came in, why are the waivers just for elementary students?
That, that guidance came from the state of California. And so I think the best thinking is that it's related to lower transmission rates. At least there's some dialogue out there. I'm not going to try to be your medical expert right now. That's not my role, but I think a lot of it was related to that. And they figured that not only was there some medical information out there, maybe suggesting that those students were less likely to receive or transmit coronavirus, but also the need for them to have school. And there's been some really, deep debate out there about what's the greater harm. Is the greater harm the risk of contracting it and people getting sick, which is significant and serious? Or is it students not being in school and the damage that may cause? There's been some debate there, and it's gone on both sides. I just read an article recently from Valley Children's Hospital, which is pretty well respected. And right now that group had kind of swung positions. They're saying right now the risk is too great. But, we can find other medical experts saying the risk is too great to keep them at home. So we've got that's happening. And I think that was really thinking about that young learner and that impressionable early childhood development.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And where can people find out about upcoming recreational activities? Is that posted somewhere? Is that on the school website?
What we'll do there is, as far as I kind of mentioned, putting all of our stipends to place for a lot of our extracurricular activities. For most of our secondary students, they kind of know that they're in that program. The choir kid knows they're in choir, and when the teacher starts to activate that, he or she's going to have access to those students. So they should be able to pick up on that. For some of the stuff that we're going to start to do with our younger students, we're looking at talking about how are we going to do robotics. We've got an incredible robotics program in our school district that is really elementary all the way up to the world champion Greybots people 3 times. Yeah, that's right. So with that said, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we take something that's so hands-on and how can we begin it in distance learning, because we students have that deep passion, and then be ready to transition it maybe to the blended model when we can. But we're going to have information. We'll make sure to get that out to all of our parents. Emily, I think it's a great question that you have. And then also, as we build some of those maybe bigger video libraries about fun extension activities for students, we'll start to make sure parents know where to find those and access those too. But great question.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this, but what are the ages of your children?
Are you out of your minds? There's a lot of them there. All right. Well, guess what? One of them just turned 19. Mitchell just turned 19, so he's the youngest. TJ is the oldest. He's about, coming up on, Luke is the second to the oldest, and Luke's probably about 26. I got to just go with probably. People. Don't worry about it. I got a handle on it still. I love him. I'm into it. And Luke's married and doing really well. And then Wyatt is 25, married, and he is going to be a dad. That means I'm going to be a grandpa. Unbelievable. Yeah, look at it. I'm not ready to be a grandpa. I'm going to have some fun with that kid, let me tell you. I'm not going to be raising him, but I'm going to have some fun with him. And then we have my daughter, Danny. Danielle is doing great. She's a teacher up in the Sacramento area. And then we have Big Joel. He's like 6'4". He looks like a model. Very popular, very popular. He's doing construction, and things are going actually pretty well. But they're all growing up. They're all finding their ways. Did I even get close to that? Don't tell my wife.
Well, we have 3, and I'm not sure if my husband could tell you their ages, except for we still have one at home, so he knows how old Carson is. But
Emily, we still like him.
Yeah, I know.
Like him, okay?
It's just a number, right?
Awesome job, Tom. Great job, man. Wow.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions. Any last parting comments, Tom?
From the heart, you guys, this is tough, just, when you sign up to get into all these fields that we're in, I think most of us see this interaction, this human place where we can really have this positive influence, be able to see students grow and develop and just, you know, really excel. I still believe all that's gonna occur. It's just in such a different format that we know there are different needs out there that we really have to start to get in address. And so, you know, for me, it's really about starting to get students back in some type of fashion. And I know we need to do this incredibly cautiously. We've got to be measured. We've got to do it the right way. But if we can start off helping our most neediest students for a variety of aspects, help them experience the success we all want, then move to some smaller groups. I'm anxious to get back, but also know that, you know, we've got a tremendous obligation around the health and safety, and certainly don't want to do anything that would contribute negatively to the health of a family or an individual. So it's just such a challenge when education and health are bumping into each other. They usually go hand in hand. But right now, our educational efforts, because of our health desires, or, you know, we're in this place where we're seeing this bumping into each other, two things that should be seen as good and complementary of each other. So it's a challenge in some ways, but I think that our parents have really stepped up and staff is working their tails off. So hopefully we'll continue to make good progress.
And everyone for coming. Next week we will bring back the coffee cup competition. The internet was a little bit sketchy. We can't see everybody's face or coffee cups today. So and next week's speaker is going to be Gail Cayetano, who is the owner and editor of Edible Magazine. She's going to speak on discovering how we can support our local restaurants, farmers, wineries, breweries, and other such businesses and other innovations and challenges that we're facing. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next week.